Welcome back after the tea break. If the people at the back of the hall could kindly take their seats, please. We'll now proceed on to the first panel session, which is about the topic of family enterprise. In this panel session, we'll be analyzing some key issues like empowerment through delegation, sustaining growth through diversification and decentralization, and exploring the myths and realities of succession planning. Before I introduce the panelists, if you'd kindly take your seats, please, so that we can begin. And let me also update you on the people around the world who are joining us. We have over 300 people now who have joined us on the live stream from places as far as Vancouver in Canada to Sydney in Australia. It's wonderful that we've been able to reach out to so many ICAP professionals throughout the world, and more will be joining us. Okay, so we have a very distinguished panel today for the family enterprise discussion. Our panelists are Abrar Hassan, he's the Chief Executive Officer of National Foods Limited. Dr. Zilaf Munir, she's the Chairperson, Executive Management Board of English Biscuit Manufacturers Private Limited. Samad Daoud, he's the Chief Executive Officer of Daoud Hercules Corporation Limited. And Amin Hashwani, who's a renowned businessman. Their full bios are available on the website, icapconference.com, and of course on your apps, on your mobile phones. And this session will be moderated by Roshan Mehri, FCA. She's the CEO Family Office at the House of Habib. Please give them a very warm round of applause. I'll hand over to Roshan Mehri now.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today, our panelists are here to discuss about the challenges facing the family businesses. Family businesses constitute an economic superpower worldwide. They are like the crown jewels of the global economy. However, their potential is not always identified. The policymakers don't pay attention to them. And even the businesses themselves tend to postpone decision-making on thorny issues such as succession, which are a risk in itself. Amazingly, the general perception is that family businesses are dull, boring, and in decline. Young talent generally prefers to join large corporations. However, facts speak otherwise. Family businesses are currently at the top of the list of good employers. In Asia particularly, family businesses are the mainstay of the local economy. And family businesses are not just an Asian phenomena, but even, say, in the UK or in the Netherlands, almost 70% of the businesses are owned by families. In Germany, it's almost 95% of the businesses are family-owned. And in the US, 90% of all businesses are owned by families. In the US, almost 50% of the GDP of the country is contributed by family-owned businesses. And even the wage packet, 50% is contributed by family-owned businesses. Now, I'm not referring to mom and pop businesses. What I'm referring to are the giants. For example, like Samsung, Porsche, the Tata Group, and the largest of them all, Walmart. These are all family-owned businesses. But just like all others, they have their inherent challenges which they have to face. Mainly, it's about converting to a professional management, on retaining talent, and about succession planning. We have a distinguished panel of all family owners of large businesses. And I would like to request firstly Mr. Abrar to share his insight on the challenges faced by the family-owned businesses and how they are resolving it. Mr. Abrar.
Thank you, Roshan, and assalamu alaikum, everyone. It's wonderful to be here and be part of this August gathering and to address such intellectual people out there. First of all, I'd just like to state certain facts. I think there has to be a clear distinction between family enterprises, because there are two types of family enterprises. The first one can be divided into listed family enterprises, and the other one in terms of unlisted family enterprises. Both obviously put forth different kinds of challenges. Let's talk about the non-listed family enterprises. If we look at research, there's nothing wrong actually with having family enterprises. In fact, family enterprises form, in terms of number of companies, they are the largest form of listed companies all over the world. In terms of listed family enterprises performances, there's also a 3% premium in terms of valuation given by investors who prefer to actually invest in companies where there is concentrated ownership. Obviously, for certain reasons, because they prefer, control. They prefer responsibility. They prefer people who actually have focus within their organizations as opposed to large corporations. Now, the challenges which emerge when we actually have non-listed family enterprises, obviously, is scalability, access to capital, growth is limited, and one of the frequently charted facts given is that these kind of family enterprises rarely last beyond the third generation. Now, as opposed to this, the listed companies generally tend to perform well. Because I think with the recently heralded corporate governance, I think that plays an important role in actually taking them forward. Now, I'd just like to give an example of my company. When you hear about National Foods, what actually comes to your mind? When we started this business, actually we were into the commodity business, and we've professionalized this business. I see tons of other companies who've got similar business models who are doing commodities out there, but there is no need to professionalize, or no need is actually being felt by the owners or the entrepreneurs over there who wanted to professionalize. And still to date, actually we have a very large population of these businesses which contribute to the unorganized sector. Now, in terms of National Foods, we clearly had a vision, and our vision actually was to professionalize from day one. And we clearly realized that there would be challenges in the future in terms of professionalizing our management. There definitely was a vision to become a food company, how we take commodities, turn them into brands, and obviously make these brands deliver profits in terms of and in line of the unorganized competition that exists out there. And when obviously you want to professionalize, you want to obviously scale the business, because that's what the vision actually clearly entails. So then there are different challenges in terms of how you actually want to create a management style within the company. In our company, we have a culture of fully empowered managers and fully decentralized management that exists. Now, when we talk about empowerment, it's very, very essential to realize that empowerment is good, but empowerment also brings a further set of responsibility and challenges. Please, 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 and I say it again and again and again, do not empower around idiots. If you do that, you are going to be in disaster. And this is where your human resource challenge actually comes in. It's very important actually that within your businesses, you need to develop competency models within your human resource framework. Your job profiles need to be very clearly and adequately defined. And then you need to hire people actually which match those job profiles in terms of the skill set. Now, that's a very difficult thing to do. Most companies actually never comply with 100% of the skill requirement in terms of when they go out there and headhunt. But the idea is actually to minimize and actually come close to the skill level which is needed for the job profile. If you're able to do that, you should certainly empower your management for professional basis. Secondly, the decentralization aspect. If you want scalability of your organization, you need to decentralize. There will come a time, and especially our organization right now is facing, where we're clearly looking at actually devolving the business into multiple business units. We're looking at actually professionalizing the management by creating separate subsidiary models actually in order to realize the full potential that exists out there in the market. These businesses will clearly be decentralized and empowered around a separate CEO, separate management, and in all terms of functional management, which is actually helping us, which will actually help us to grow our business. So these are just some of the views actually that I have, and I'll just pass it on to the next speaker.
Dr. Zilaf Munir, by profession you're from medicine, but you are in management leadership. How do you foresee this challenge of converting to professional management within your organizations?
Is this on? Yes. Ji, Assalamu alaikum. It's really a pleasure being here. Having listened to Abrar, and I can relate to all of that, EBM having a trajectory in some ways similar, in some ways different. But before, and he's given the reasons why it is important in terms of sustainability, but there's actually an even bigger reason. And I think for that, if we study South Asia, and why is that? Because in terms of cultural nuances, in terms of heritage, in terms of socio-dynamics, that's where we would find the most relatedness, and even in mindset. So if we look at India, since post-1991, when they had the economic reforms, what has happened? There's been a total transformation in the Indian companies and the corporate structures. And that was necessitated to remain globally competitive. So it's not just about your own sustainability, it's also about to remain competitive. Structuring, governance, corporatizing is a must. And the results, and as one sees from and why it relates to family enterprise is because over 80% of the companies that are now global leaders were from family enterprises. There are three kinds, I would say, of, in Pakistan, family enterprises. There would be one which is totally family-owned, 100% of the board shareholding. Then there are others like EBM and National Foods, which has shareholdings of different people, groups, members, families. And that brings in the accountability, that brings in the structure, and that brings in the need for governance. And then there is the third kind, which is more of the conglomerate, which is what Samad and Amin may be talking more about. In case of EBM, we started as a joint venture. And the circumstances were such that since the 80s, we are actually functioning as a national company, because all the R&D, all the innovations, all the management systems, they were developed by us. And what has led to the success of what we are today is the fact that professional values, professional management was always at the core of the business. Why? And to give an example, it was called English Biscuit. The first communication in the packaged consumer food industry, they were one of the first entrants. Alif se English, Bay se biscuit, Pehli Ghiza English Biscuit. What did that do? That nationalized, democratized, created, was the beginning of the packaged hygienic consumer food industry. Now, coming to what are the challenges when there are family members that are in the management? I think what is very important to know is what are the things, again, learning from examples from the region, what are the things the challenges that they used to face? If the culture is hierarchical, if the culture is feudalistic, if there is nepotism, these were very, very commonly found. And that used to be what was not letting these companies from the other regions grow. And having professional management, having the skills developed, empowering your own managers to be taking decisions rather than having centralized decisions, because what frustrates them most is when the decision making is not with the people who are delegated the job to be doing it. So I would say that in terms of where does a family enterprise go, the challenges, if they are faced, what makes them successful is they are value-based, they are resilient. Research has shown that in economic downtimes, the family enterprises do better than in economic upturns. And that speaks for the resilience, the longer-term approach, the frugality with which it is run, the high bar for capital expenditures, and the loyalty that the employees feel towards the organization, that actually they have higher retention rates than the non-family enterprises. So I would say with this, where it comes to the pros and cons of the diversifications, I would let the conglomerates speak on that.
Samad, that's the cue for you. So as a conglomerate, please, if you can share with us your views.
Hello. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for the opportunity. Before I go into the content, I think it'd be worthwhile just to provide some sort of context to what we are and what we do. Dow Hercules Corporation is a controlling owner of a few of the businesses which are in fertilizer, power, and foods. A couple of our companies are on the panel on my right, Engro and Hubco. Now, as a controlling owner, what we think about a lot is what does it mean to be a good owner of a business? That's a really, really important question to ask. And we reflected quite a bit on that question. And for us, why the question is important to ask is because as owners of a business, the owners are most deeply committed to the success of a business. The financial health, the reputation, the psychological investment, all of it goes into a business, which is why when a business does not perform well or it underperforms, the owners are the most impacted by that outcome. So when we look at what it means to be a good owner, for us as a controlling owner, we came up with 3 questions which was most important. What businesses should we be in and why? It's a very simple question to ask. And we feel that's going to take a lifetime to keep on answering that question because it's going to keep on evolving. The answers to that are going to keep on evolving. The outcome of answering that question is what we call corporate strategy, and the financial outcome of that is capital allocation. The second question we need to ask is, are we designed to win in those businesses? Now, what does design to win mean? Design to win means, do we have the right resources, the right capabilities, the right culture, the right decision-making structures to actually win in those businesses? Third, over there, the outcomes are, do we have the right leaders in the organization? What should be the governance? How should empowerment be delegated down the chain? When to delegate? Delegation in itself is neither right or wrong, but it is a means to an end. And the last question we ask ourselves is, are we winning? And how do we determine that we are winning? This is what we call performance management, which is to say, how do we make a decision-making system where we reward inputs and processes and not just outcomes? Because outcomes themselves are a result of choice, chance, and action of others. And choice is what you need to reward all the time. How do you behave in a business all the time? That's really important. So that's the mantra that we feel enables an owner to be a good owner of a business. That's what we're applying in our companies, and later I can talk much more about what are some of the examples that we've got in answering these questions.
All right. I was just quickly jotting down some points as everyone was talking. I'd like to touch upon the human element. We talk about family business. Business is there, but the family aspect is something which we need to be aware of and put on the table all the time. We talk about constitution. It's very nice. We draw a family constitution, rules which we should abide by, but we need to be cognizant of the fact that each one of us is unique individual. We are all different. Family dynamics are very different in each family. So how do we factor in? How do we cater to those challenges? Family business, if we see, in some ways, is kind of uncharted territory. Whatever we are evolving, it has not been happened before. Where a high degree of, let's say, people who are coming in from abroad, universities joining in family business, a high degree of professionalism coming in. You have the corporate sector structures. So these are all kind of unique for us, and we are still, grappling with what exactly is the correct answer. On the human side, I think from a child's upbringing, right? Previously, we used to live in joint family systems. There, we developed the capacity to accommodate each other. बच्चों में झगड़े होते थे, and we would develop capacity. चलो ठीक है, छोड़ दो, let's go. Now the families are separated. Children are spoiled. They get at the press of a button whatever they want. I feel we're not letting our children develop the skills that are necessary to run a family business. You look at the toys that they play, उसपे warning होगी कि choking हो जाएगा या fire hazards हो जाएंगे. So we do not allow our children to go near electrical appliances, yet we want them to become the best electrical engineers when they grow up. And not to mention these tiger moms, which we see at these sports competition, just shouting at the top of their voice, "Ki mera bacha number 1 aaye," right? These are huge social pressures which we are putting upon our children, and trust me, they do show up at some point. This emotional baggage shows up at some point in their lives. And so when we're talking about family business, remember, it's these children who will ultimately be becoming will be running these businesses. Again, in families, how do we factor into the unique individuality of a member of the family, the emotions that that person brings in? How do we accommodate to failures? In our society, we really cannot, we do not, accommodate failures. Aap Silicon Valley mein aap chale jaye, every 10 venture that you will invest in, 8 of them are bound to fail, and only 2 will succeed. And the whole idea is, you learn from your failures and then you move on. हमारे यहाँ तो, you go to a दावत, अच्छा आप क्या करते हैं? If you say, I just failed my business, they'll just look the other way. So, they'll ask you what job you do, what family you belong to, etc. So your whole self-worth in our society is defined by certain parameters which, in my opinion, are very harmful for us to have a healthy family environment. How do you, brothers, sisters, but when you go to the next generation, how do you manage the chemistries between cousins? Again, you need to develop in those children those human skills for them to be accommodative of like each other. Again, family mein, before making a family constitution, I think we need to first make a family constitution. What does our family stand for? Not what our family business stands for, but what our family, what are the ethical, what are the moral values we stand for? What is our sense of purpose which comes before profit? All right. If we can figure these things out, these, in my opinion, are the fundamental, then the rest, in my opinion, whatever challenges we face, profits, loss, failure, successful, we'll have the capacity, the buffers to deal with these challenges. If we do not take care of these fundamental issues and we just take it as a pure business, trust me, a lot of families will have huge problems going forward. Thank you.
Very good. Amin, thank you very much. Amin has brought up a very, the human side of family businesses. Businesses normally are very unemotional. You've got to take very clear-cut, unemotional decisions. But a family is all about emotions. and very personal emotions at that, whether they are siblings, whether they are cousins. And to marry the two, to marry a family with a business, it's like an oxymoron in itself. One has got to be very unemotional in business, but in a family, one is all emotions. And that's a very important challenge that all family businesses have to manage and have to go through. Like Amin said, yes, a family constitution is a very important element, but before a constitution, you need a vision, a family vision. And may I ask my panelists to speak on that a bit more?
Certainly. I think Amin made an excellent point over there, the human side of it, because it directly relates to family enterprises. I think it's important, again, to make a distinction. There's a clear-cut distinction between family-owned and family-managed. These two phrases actually have very two different powerful meanings, actually. As they say, family-owned is good, family-managed is not necessarily good. So in terms of your question, actually, I think this is where the debate actually lies. When all these sensitivities that were just being talked about, they generally tend to emerge in family-managed companies. Now, having said that, I think it really depends at what gestation stage your company is actually in, or which growth stage your company actually is. Family-managed businesses are also good for startups, actually, because they are a cost-effective way of actually getting to a certain level. But after you develop a vision and you want to scale your company, family-managed enterprises are not necessarily good. There are a lot of problems, actually, that emerge. Leadership clashes, and that's where there is a general tendency and habit to actually work in a centralized atmosphere where control is more or less kept with the owners at the top. There is a know-it-all attitude, which doesn't necessarily actually it doesn't sort of encourage professional participation from the managers down below. Thirdly, I think the most troublesome area actually is recruitment of talent, because not many human resources out there are motivated to actually join a company at this evolutionary stage to think about making a career where they clearly see a block at the top. So these are the various factors in consideration which one needs to take, and especially when you design a vision, the family-managed enterprise actually have to develop a culture of letting go. And this is where professionals need to be brought in. And family governance, family boards, these are all necessary stages of evolution within the company that you have to go through. And once you overcome this thing, you can certainly scale your company to a much larger heights. Of course, being a listed company and subjected to corporate governance, most of these things are actually given to you in a form of a regulatory framework, which actually helps. Okay, thank you.
Abrar used the word letting go.
Yeah, so I think you've raised some really excellent points about the life cycle of a company and where it should be. But just going back from Amin's point, I think we get so involved in the running of a business that we don't really concentrate on the family itself. And why I think it's, just to elaborate on that point, why I think it's important is because the laws that govern the business are actually quite different from the laws that govern the family. For family is based on seniority. Business is based on meritocracy. So when you have a family managed business with family members being part of the management team, you have the same people subject to two different laws on the same day. Maybe even within the same hour, because you go out and you have to have a family chat and then you go back into your business mode. So those two laws obviously would lead to conflict, and conflict should never be avoided, it needs to be managed, because conflict also breeds innovation and thought. The other point I'd just like to mention is about control. Now, we had a wonderful speaker, Mr. Charles Tilley here, who was talking about technology and how technology is going to have a transformative impact on businesses. And then what I'm really interested to see is how technology will impact family businesses, because traditionally what happens is that managers, whether they're family or non-family managers, they tend to dominate decision making because they have access to information that other people may not have. in a world where information is democratized, and talent and capability and information are your only true competitive advantages in the long term, this system of control and I will make all the decisions is going to become obsolete very quickly. And family businesses who are not able to adapt to that changing environment will run up and develop business cultures which will become inherently subject to being outcompeted. Because at the end of the day, the world is moving more towards how fast you can react and adapt to changing market forces, not how well you can control a company.
I agree with what both my colleagues have said. I think the point that was raised, and you had asked me about my own journey, and Samad raises a good point, because meritocracy is a very important element. So when one talks about building talent, the intellectual and human talent, even within the family, needs to be enhanced and worked upon. And where the succession planning is concerned, if from a very beginning there is this realization that merit should be what is going to be in the interest of the family, and hence the sensitivity and the conflicts become less. Now, when it comes to, and there are different skill sets, different strengths, different value systems, different opportunities that different people in the family bring onto the table. So there is diversity even within, so that also needs to be recognized. And whatever is in the best interest of the company, because that is where everybody's interests lie. So there has to be alignment of interests, alignment of vision of what going forward is. So not that it was, I would actually be lying if I say it was planned that way, but if I look at our own journey, and I do believe in this, the fact that I wanted to have my own career, I wanted to have my own independent line, had my own interests, I wanted to prove myself, and I chose to do that, and I did very well. But it was a journey. We are talking about 20 years. 10 years ago is when the realization came that I may be also contributing towards the opportunities that are there in the homeland, and what is also going to be in the interest of my own family. So you educate yourself, you learn more, you are in a competitive environment where merit is appreciated, is the only way to reach the top. Then you start learning about your industry. These things take time, and you have to be planning it in a way that when the transitions do take place, the setback is not for the company, because in most instances of failures, it is when the transitions intergenerationally have not been planned well. So this is also one of the things that needs to be addressed. And as I say, every family enterprise should have a chief emotional officer. We have CEOs, we have CFOs, we have CIOs. We also need to have a chief emotional officer. So that, and generally that could probably be moms, right?
Great. The chief emotional officer. That's an excellent way to state it. Now, Zilaf mentioned about the transition process and that it should be well planned. But what we note is that it's generally not well planned, and sort of it's left to the end, or sometimes when it's too late. Can you share with us some insights?
I think Tolstoy once mentioned that every bad marriage is different, right? So every family has their own unique dynamics. And no matter how much one plans ahead, looks at it strategically, there is always that uncertainty thing. And in my opinion, I think it is important, how does the family define success? How does the family find the sense of purpose? Especially in this environment, where we have this finding happiness, right? Or materialism, or these egos, which we have, inflated egos. In this, this whole thing about finding happiness, and I feel far more important is happiness it's just a fleeting moment, right? It's like a good deal, a good business deal you do, you feel happy, and then next day you're back to square one. A more important thing is to find purpose. And if you can define your sense of purpose as an individual, as a family, you would be able to take those bumps. And I always say, a soldier going on the battlefront does not go to seek happiness. He or she goes because to fulfill a sense of purpose. If you can find that sense of purpose, it will develop the capacity, the buffers within your family to take the ups and downs. And they say, good etiquette is not about spilling the sauce, but it's about not pointing out when someone else is spilling the sauce, right? We need to be accommodative. And I feel the environment which we are surrounding ourselves with is very counterproductive to have a healthy family business. And that is the challenge. And until and unless we do not proactively do something about it as a family, sit together, look at all these unspoken things, I think there is a good chance we will have huge problems to survive as family businesses for generations to come.
Anything else, Abrar, you would like to add to this discussion?
I think all the points are just are quite good. But I think, again, I'd like to go back to my original sort of difference between listed and non-listed companies. In a listed company, actually, you will generally find the right way of actually growing efficiently at the top is, again, you have to make a clear distinction between leading and managing a company. I think management is best left to the professionals, and the leadership part and the governance part is something where the family enterprise should actually participate more on this thing. So just a sort of a concluding comment on that.
We would like to invite questions. Ms. Dilaf, you want to say something?
Yes, I just wanted to build upon what Abrar said. That is one of the ways of introducing corporate governance, because there are different objectives that that determine the decision of whether one gets listed, goes public, or does not. And depending on what kind of financial needs and the objectives that one has. We have multinationals that are delisting. We have huge enterprises that are private companies, many in Europe, many in the US as well. So the point here is, what does that do? It's about introducing good governance and good management. And that is what the key is. And the good governance includes the relationships between the board, the management, and the shareholders. And you don't have to be listed to do that, is my point and message to the people here, as long as you recognize the need for good corporate governance.
Great. On that point, yes, good corporate governance is essential not only for the large corporations, but even the small and the medium-sized family businesses. So now we'd like the audience to have, if they have any questions for the panelists, please feel free to ask. The floor is open.
My name is Ahmed Nadeem. I'm CFO at Total Oil, Pakistan. And I have been working in some family-based businesses as well. I'm also from Chinot Sheikh families. So just a very good discussion on that topic. Just few points which I have seen being followed by many of the family-based businesses, companies, that when the new entrant is coming within the family into the business, yes, obviously everyone would like to sit at the top, want to be the director from the first day, but a good approach has been that they are being followed throughout the process. For example, if a textile is there, the new entrant would be first be sitting at the procurement of the cotton. Then for the yarn manufacturing, he must be spending some time at the factory, and then some time at the finance. And after that growth, when the person reaches at the top, he don't only has the knowledge, but also knows that the human side, what challenges are being faced at that position. So one point is that, I think, and I've seen in many companies that it is being followed rigorously and it is very successful. As compared to those companies where people just come and they say, okay, I'm the director or I need to have so much powers and all these delegations. At that point, they just fail to understand what is the challenge being faced. They say, no, the person saying that challenge is lying, or there's no challenge, or there come the politics and all these things. So this comes the first. And the second thing which I would suggest, and I've seen it being practiced, even if we compare with the MNCs, what they do. The CEO or the country head is also, you can see it's a family head. But what is the difference? The difference is that they make the procedures and define the steps or the rules which must be met to make some kind of decision making. So if those procedures are there in a family-based business as well, so the centralized way of thinking or making decision goes away. So that power is automatically decentralized and the rules are there, the fair things are there. People know that it is not a one-man show, but it's procedures and all the rules that if anybody would follow, he will get the success. Thank you very much.
Good observations. The second one was good governance. Yes, we all agree we need good governance. And the first one regarding the training, each family has its own way of training their youngsters. And definitely knowing more about the business is not just about the family kids. I think each CFO or a chartered accountant should also know and understand each level of the business.
Here I can actually, if I'll just quote another personal example, and that's only because it's relevant to how we want our family enterprises to grow, and somebody may pick up something from that. So I have a son who is 26 years old. He was abroad, he was working, did his internship at EBM at the recommendation of his grandfather, and liked it, and went back, and then came back. He said, okay, I'm going to give this a shot. He started from the lowest of rung. He's the assistant brand manager, has to report to the professional managers, and the promotion is going to be based totally on the performance appraisal systems. Now he went to George Washington University, and a lot of his friends there were also they had gone from Pakistan. He was born and brought up there. And they have also come back, and they are also children of people who have very successful businesses, family enterprises. Now his roommate has an office next to his father's, and is the CEO of some company, and I would be careful in using this word, but I think all of us do. And they're developing into mini states. Now that is the difference between what is the elephant in the room? What is it that professionals are worried about when they are applying for jobs? Well, now the scenario is very different because the national companies is where the future lies, because we are not going to have too many MNCs here. And hence the attitudes may be changing, but we need to study what are the challenges that makes professionals hesitant to be joining such enterprises. And without good quality human resource, no enterprise is going to progress and do well.
Great response. Any other questions?
Assalamu alaikum. I am Zain Rashid from MTBC. There's a question that panel made a very good discussion about the challenges in the family-owned business. And we know that every business has an impact on the stakeholders like shareholder. So is there any impact on the return on investment or the dividend policy if we are talking about the family-owned business and the non-family-owned business? Impact on dividend policy, that's a return on investment. That's a certain person that invests in different businesses.
Yeah, so goes back to the point that Amin was making. I think it starts with planning for the family and the business together. You can't plan for one without the other. There needs to be some sort of a social contract between the family and the business. One of the key elements of that contract is cash flow for the family, because very few families would have a business if it didn't meet their financial needs. As the saying goes, you can't have a healthy business and unhealthy shareholder. That's just not sustainable. So the dividend policy of a business will be greatly impacted by the needs of the family. And again, what happens on an ongoing basis versus what happens in a transition may be very different as well. So when you see what happens in some of the other family businesses outside, is you have a certain stream of dividends and there's a lot of reinvestment happening in the company. And then if there's a transition in the family, there's normally a super dividend, a transition, a liquidity event. So that flushes out cash, gives it to the family members, and the rest of the resources get plowed back into the business, and the business keeps on scaling up, and then you have a constant dividend stream. So there are various models which are used, and as Amin rightfully said, each family is different, and hence will have a different need requirement from the business, and hence that will have a different dividend policy.
That was a good question. Any others?
Associate member of SEMA and associate member of ACCA. If we take the example of Pakistan, here we have around 80% of our corporate businesses, they are family owned. Whereas 20% are, of course, they are sort of, they are non-family owned businesses. Now, based on the experiences we have had in our past career, what we have noted is our entrepreneurs, they usually, not always, they usually may not be possessing the professional skills they are required to run the business. And the professionals like us, when we are hired, we in certain cases feel that the entrepreneur's interference in managing the business, as you all mentioned, one is leading the business and managing the business. All the 5 panelists, they endorsed that the businesses should be managed by the professionals. So we, the professionals, in certain cases feel that the management of the business is not left at the hands of the professionals. And this, in my humble opinion, I may be wrong, is one of the constraints of the economic progress of Pakistan, that the professionals should be given open hand to run the show. So my question to all the panelists is whether you all agree to what I say. Thank you very much.
Yes, but why would you say that an entrepreneur cannot be or is not a professional? I mean, what defines a professional? So it is the way you govern, your attitude, your behavior. So it's about being professional.
No, I never said actually, entrepreneurs, they may have much more knowledge, much more understanding, and we do agree. Even if an entrepreneur is simply a matriculate, for example, we really appreciate the knowledge he has of the business is much more than what we chartered accountants have. I fully endorse it. But what I say is, of course, entrepreneurs, you see, they may not be chartered accountants. They may not be the engineers. In many cases, particularly in the medium-size and small-size enterprises in Pakistan, it so happens, which we have personally experienced, in those cases, you see, the professionals should be given open hand to run the show. This is what I mean, actually.
I would sort of agree with you partly, but I need you to define a little bit clearly for me, what do you mean by free hand, actually? Because I don't think, forget about family enterprises. Now let's talk about non-family enterprises, which are corporations. There's no concept of free hand, actually, even in non-family owned businesses. Businesses, good businesses, well-managed businesses run on very good proactive systems, okay? And systems performances are evaluated on the basis of KPIs, which are binding constraints on every key manager. So there is no free hand, actually, in terms of you have to still manage and perform your duties under certain regulatory framework. So this is my understanding. If there is another definition of free hand, please do share that.
No, I fully agree with you. Free hand does not mean that, of course, the professional should be given the free hand that the decisions he makes. What I mean to say is, like, I would like to just say, they say in certain cases, the SET has the choice in certain cases. I'm talking of medium-sized and small-sized companies. They say whatever decision he makes is the final decision. This set of mind, this attitude of the entrepreneur, this is what I feel, need to be changed in our small and medium-sized enterprises in Pakistan. Of course, I'm not talking of all enterprises, of course. I'm talking in certain cases. So there you see the professionals should be encouraged to make decisions and to keep the entrepreneur in loop and to the extent of the information. This is what I mean, actually.
I just want to pass one comment. One shouldn't generalize it, because what you're saying can be partly correct. It depends upon the situation. For example, if you're talking about small enterprise, and if I'm running a small restaurant, I cannot delegate to my bawarchi. Well, I cannot afford a general manager to run a restaurant, right? So that cannot be true. I have to play a very active role, and perhaps it's more difficult to run a restaurant than a five-star hotel, because there you can hire a general manager, you can have an F&B manager, etc., etc. So in a small enterprise, it's always a challenge, and it will remain, not just in Pakistan. Generally, you see abroad also, you have that kind of entrepreneurship, a state culture there, and without that, you cannot do it. But when you're talking about big companies, like everyone mentioned, you have the systems, you have professionals, etc. So SMEs will always remain a challenge.
I think the observation is valid. A few years ago, we started this venture which was focusing on investing in SME enterprises. And so we went out and met with a lot of companies. And one thing came out was the environment in which a business operates has a very large impact on the culture of the organization. Now, SMEs themselves, a lot of them, the environment is such that there are taxation issues and other issues which come up, which leads to a lot of control over information flow, because you don't want the wrong information to go to the wrong hands when obviously you've got a different set of accounts. So once you have, again, going back to what Amin said, once you have a system that enables entrepreneurship, that really levelizes the playing field, that reduces the incentive for people to keep everything themselves. And I saw this a lot in retailers, for example. And they were very afraid of the wrong information going to the wrong hands. And hence, they did not put in ERP solutions, they did not focus on information. If you don't have information, you don't get the right quality of people. If you don't get the right quality of people, you can't empower them, right? So it's a vicious cycle.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. This is Ijaz. Hello.
Sorry.
Sir, this is Ijaz Nisar. I am the chief editor of a business magazine. My question, sir, this is the age of globalization, and this is the age of innovation. And ideally, my teachers tells me this is the age of globalization. Think global, but act local. My question to all the panelists, sir, why would you not think global? Except few organizations in Pakistan, the family-owned businesses, they have their going to global, except few. But we still running and really lacking this global mindset, global vision. Why, my question is, why we cannot think globally? Why we do not have multinationals? Why we do not grow from national organizations to the multinational organizations? Why do we not teach our family-owned businesses values to the global organizations? First. And second, my simple question, sir. Pakistan is also a family-owned business, you know. The principles you are teaching, why do not teach these principles of corporate governance to our leaders who are taking this country as a personal company, sir? Thank you, sir.
I tend to agree we should be more global. Thought process, Pakistan entrepreneurs mein bahut hai global. There is no this thing. If you put a Pakistani businessman, compare it to any other from India or anywhere, you will not find them lacking. The problem is we have to remember, last 30 years we've been operating and it's been like a war economy, right? Nobody wants to come to Pakistan. You look at brand Pakistan as compared to brand China, brand India, we have a huge disadvantage. And not to mention, you know, the tremendous costs that have happened to Pakistan. So I think thinking a problem nahi hai. It's not been exactly a very conducive environment for Pakistan to be operating on a global platform. And for that, of course, you need scales also. And very few companies over here, post-nationalization, have achieved those scales that normally have taken traditionally decades and decades. Aajkal mein you can do it in like 5 years' time, but previously, traditionally, it would take like 30, 40, 50 years for a business group to be called a global player. So these are some of the challenges. I'm sure you'd like to add a few.
Just one statement. In order to become globally competitive, you have to become globally competitive locally first. You can't take a weak business model and export it and hope to succeed. A lot of people have tried to do that. They're like, well, we are very good at Pakistan, we will go outside and we replicate the success, and a few years later they come back to Pakistan. Because unless and until you're strong inside, you can't be strong outside. And so for me, that means you have to have a large local market, or through technology have access to a large global market. But you have to get that scale that we just spoke about earlier, and have the system and the culture for that to globalize.
Research and development is one thing. If you look at Pakistan, we are almost at the bottom in like or number of new patents which we register. You know, we really can't talk much about it. So these are the fundamental thing, and this is more of a societal problem. जो आप politicians की जो आप बात कर रहे थे, I think that is the role of the civil society. Businesses, we can lead by example, but we cannot enforce it because we have vested interests. We are vulnerable. We cannot go to Islamabad and, you know, dharne lagana. We can't do that. We have vested interests. Hamari income tax ki filing khul jayegi, right? It's the civil society or professionals. They are the people who need to do it. And I think the onus is definitely on people sitting on this side rather than on this side for bringing in good governance. We will make our thing, but I think we are vulnerable. Established businesses in Pakistan are vulnerable. Let's be very clear of that.
Thank you, Amin. You want to say something? And on that note...
May I have one question? Excuse me.
Sorry.
May I have the last question?
Yeah.
My name is Mohammed Shoaib. I am from Al-Mizan Investments, and I see on the panel all the businesses who are very well managed, family owned and family managed, who have transformed to successful professionally managed businesses. So my question for my own benefit and for the benefit of audience is, if the panelists can identify one single factor which is very, very important for transformation of a business from a family managed to a professionally managed and get the business to the next level. Because what we have seen is that the examples, like 4 or 5 examples on the panel, there are very, very few examples of businesses in Pakistan which were purely family owned and which could, as Amin also mentioned, which could survive and flourish after the 3rd generation. So my request would be if you can share from your personal experience one single factor which is very, very important for the transformation of the business to the next level. Thank you.
In my humble opinion, actually, unfortunately, there's no one single factor. I think the part of actually excelling in business comes in running a good balance between all the functions of management that you actually have. We've already talked about empowerment, decentralization, and, you know, the various pros and cons of the thing. All good businesses, they have to, you know, reach a certain evolutionary stage before you can take a next transitional step. A good leader, it's up to the good leader to actually recognize when you've achieved that transitional level or that level at which you can transition on to the next stage. So I would say that this is really one facet of good leadership which exists in certain key organizations where there are people who have this acute sense in actually recognizing and taking decision immediately where they feel that the adequate functions within the company are balanced to actually take it to the next level. So I'm sorry, in my opinion, there's no single factor.
Can we?
I think they're two separate things. Successful company and sustainability of the company. We've all addressed the sustainability aspect, how it is going to be. I can just speak, I'm sure most of the people will relate to this too. Actually, the vision of who was the founding, maybe considered the founding father, the value system, and the credit has to also be given to the entrepreneur who actually got the business to where it is. We are talking about next generations. We are talking about family enterprises. But the biggest, the largest of companies that one studies, it does start with one individual, whether it is the Sam Walton or whether it is the Nestle. So we cannot discount that, but what we have to capture is what was the spirit, what was the values, and what is it that we need to be preserving and taking forward.
Post World War II, Japan was completely destroyed. Emperor Hirohito, he requisitioned the best minds in Japan to see how we can revive the country. They came up, we should emphasize on quality. All right, that should be the basis on which we feel that we'll be able to conquer the world once more. And so they came up with this strategy how to get the quality. You know who was their first customer? They said their target audience, how should we instill? It was the housewife. They said if we can make our housewives quality conscious, ultimately it will trickle down to our factory floors. And once that happens, then it will make us globally competitive, right? So a simple answer for me would be, आप घर का माहौल सही करें, बच्चों की upbringing, I'm sorry, it's a very non-corporate type of an answer, but जब तक बच्चों की आप परवरिश अगर आप सही नहीं करेंगे, उनकी आप वैल्यू सिस्टम्स उसमें आप सही नहीं डालेंगे, सेंस ऑफ पर्पस आप नहीं डालेंगे, आपका वो जो बड़े होके जो फैमिली बिजनेस में आएंगे, अगर सही नहीं होगा तो फैमिली बिजनेस भी बिल्कुल सही नहीं होगा. आप जो भी आप प्रोफेशनलिज्म आप लेकर आए, जो भी आप गवर्नेंस स्ट्रक्चर्स रखे, जो भी आप करें, it will not work. So again, it's about the home environment, family environment that translates into the corporate environment.
Great. Family values are the basics that we need to get in place, whether it's a large business or whether it's a small family environment. The family values... Yes, okay, sorry. Samad wants to make a last comment.
I just think it's a loaded question. I just think it's unfair to say professionals versus family members. Family members themselves can be professionals. What a business always needs the right leader to run the business if it's going to be run successfully. Can anybody go to Warren Buffett and say you're not a professional? Please, you need to professionalize. Or go to Larry Ellison of Oracle and say, no, you're not a professional. Professionalism is the attitude that you bring to your job. And you're there for the right reason because you're the best person for that job, not because of ownership. That is the definition. Not to say a family member and professional are the same.
Great. Personal values. Right. I think I can see that we are over time. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to the panelists and to the audience.
If the panelists can just stay on the stage, and if I can invite Mr. Ahmed Saeed, the past president of ICAP, if you could kindly join us on stage to give them their mementos. I think we had a very engaging discussion. Thanks to all the panelists and to Roshan Mehri for moderating. A warm round of applause for everyone. If you could all group together for the photo as well, that would be great. For those of you who weren't able to ask questions, I'm sure you can grab the panelists when they're having their lunch. Apologies, but we did actually run out of time. We have a very jam-packed schedule today. Please. First memento to Mr. Abrar Hassan. And now to Dr. Zilaf Munir. Mr. Amin Hashwani. And Mr. Samad Daoud. And a special thanks to our moderator, Roshan Mehri. So it's a tough job to have to moderate with so many people and so many panelists. I think she did a fantastic job. So thank you all very much. And now let me announce the second poll. If you were a bit dilatory in voting for the first one, you've now got your chance to vote in the second poll. The question is, of course, related to this panel session. Which sector do you think will have a substantial contribution in the Pakistani national economy in the next 5 years? Is it first option, family-owned business groups, or the second option, multinational companies? So go down to your mobile app and start voting now, and we'll give you the results after lunch. Now, just before lunch, our final session is on talent management, and we have a very distinguished and experienced speaker. I'm pleased to announce Dr. Rizwan Amin Sheikh will be giving this presentation. He's the Professor of Practice and Dean at the Indus Institute of Management. He's visiting faculty at Judge Business School Executive Education, that's at the University of Cambridge in the UK, Hult International Business School in the US, and Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology in Australia. He's also President of Project Management Institute in the USA, Lahore chapter. Dr. Sheikh has served as an assistant professor and director of the MBA program at LUMS, and he has over 23 years of management consulting experience, strategy formulation, international program, project management, teaching, and business transformation experience in the public as well as the private sectors. He's going to share with us all his experience and talk about talent management, no longer just an HR issue. Please welcome him warmly to the stage.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I guess I got two challenges. The first challenge is the only thing that is standing between you and your lunch is myself. So that's the first challenge. And the second challenge that I got is that I'm coming after Mr. Dhananjaya and the distinguished speakers. So these are the two challenges. So that means is my presentation is going to look like a dwarf. So these are the two things you're going to have to put up with. So let's see how I can speed that up. Adnan and Zara from ICAP, they approached me. Usually I talk about leadership, and they said, now this time you want to talk about the sub-element of leadership and to a certain extent governance, which is the talent management. So what we're going to talk about is whose job is it? So, but before we get into that, let's see, what is talent? What is talent? Is it having an ACA, FCA, MBA, MBBS, PhD? Is that a talent? Or being the head or entrepreneur, is that a talent? Or, pardon my words, but is being a saint a talent? What is a talent? Anybody wants to take a crack at it? Oh, by the way, since you're all chartered accountants, I deliberately made sure there were no numbers in my presentation, except on one slide. Except on one slide. What that means is no matter what you do, you cannot get rid of your CFO. No matter what you do. You cannot get rid of chartered accountants. As a matter of fact, when I was growing up, one of the things that I was taught by one of my mentors, we'll talk more about mentors, and by the way, my mentor is the vice chairman of Global Deloitte and Touche. Pat Cronroy is my mentor. So we'll talk about the importance of having a mentor. He said you got to have 3 things in your life. 1, a good chartered accountant. So when you get in trouble with FBI or IRS, he or she can bail you out. Number 2, a good medical doctor. And number 3 is a good lawyer. So when you're going through a divorce. I'm just kidding. So, so these are the 3 things. So yes, you want to have the chartered accountants on your side. Just quickly, talent is, if you're a good strategist or a good board member, is that part of the talent? Or if you can really rally up the support and make sure, as one of my colleagues said, that Pakistan is not being run as a company, is that a talent? Or where is Mr. Dhanjaya? He's not here. Or is that the teddy bear that he met the first time who transformed his life? Or is it something, a brain wave that you get? What is talent? If you look it up, if you Google it these days, there are different definitions of talent. Some of them are, talent means that the skills that someone has quite naturally to do something that would be hard for others to do. Someone who has got the talent is able to do something without trying too hard. These are all definitions. It's an ability that somebody is born with. It's like, are the leaders born or the leaders made? Are you born with the talent, or can you develop the talent? Again, researchers are split half and half. Half think, yes, we are born with certain talents. Half think, no, you can develop a talent. You can become an excellent chartered accountant. You can become an excellent doctor. You can become an excellent teacher. But the other half of the research community says, no, you have to have something in your genes. Like I said, it's the jury is still out. The research community is split half and half. People may have talent for music, acting, and things like that. As Mr. Fakir Yazuddin said, make sure you do something besides counting the numbers, whether you play a guitar or something like that, or write a book. And again, that's part of the talent. Someone who's got the talent is talented. Mozart had the talent. Yes, chartered accountants are also very talented. Now, if somebody's got a talent, they'll still have to work very hard if they want to be very good at something. Is that true? Why is that? If somebody is born with talent, why do they have to work hard? Why would you all have to work hard? You are the FCAs, you know the numbers. You are ahead of the Saints, as according to one of my friends, he was trying to mince his words. I don't have to because I work for myself, so, So why is that? Why do you have to work hard? Yes, you want change. You want to make a difference because performance at the end of the day does matter. So some people waste their talents because they don't work hard enough. Other words for talent are gifts or aptitude. Some of the quotations. Talent is like a flower. You have to fully tend to it if you want something beautiful. Yes, you can be born with talent. You can be a born leader, but you need to develop some people skills. One of the first questions on the poll that Maureen had put up, I'll be interested to see the results of that. I have a pretty good guess what the results are going to look like, but I would like to see that. Hard work beats talent when talent fails to work. Yes, you might be born with talent, but you gotta work hard. Yes, you have become the FCA, ACA, but you gotta work hard. Doing easily what others find it difficult is talent. Doing what is impossible with talent is genius. Again, if you are one of these people, you got nothing to worry about, whether you got the talent or not. Einstein. So, Now, what are the key benefits of having a talent? Anybody wants to venture a guess? Key benefits of having talent. Excuse me? Hello? Yes, please go ahead. You get a head start as compared to others. What else could be the benefits if you have a talent? You are a talented chartered accountant versus you are a chartered accountant. Winning. You can come out as a winner. Yes, sir. Innovation. If you are talented, yes, you can innovate, you can transform your businesses, you can convince the owners that yes, your ideas, whatever you are saying, make sense. The numbers you are presenting make sense. By the way, I'm not a numbers guy, but still, I believe in numbers. How many people recognize this store? With a show of hands. Circuit City stores, electronic stores in the United States of America. When was it born? Anybody wants to venture a guess? When was Circuit City born? 1949. 1949. Again, family-owned business, started by one of the people. One of the only 11 companies in Jim Collins' bestseller list, Good to Great. Reached $2 billion by 1990 in revenues from 1949 to $2 billion in electronic stores sales. Was the fastest, best performing company on the Collins Good to Great book, performing the market 18.5 times better than the S&P and the rest of the companies in the 15-year period. What happened to Circuit City in 2009? Anybody wants to venture a guess? We will serve you nice lunch if you get the right answer right. Bankrupt. They filed bankruptcy, gone. Today, there is no Circuit City. What happened? I'm sorry? Family management or mismanagement? What happened? What happened? Yeah. I got 5 minutes left. So I told you I'm standing between you and the lunch. So, okay. So, what happened? The management in 2007-8, they decided to lay off the highly paid salespeople. Again, no offense to my friends who are chartered accountants. One of the chartered accountants, he said, hey, look, these are 3,500 salespeople. They are the highly paid people. We cannot afford them. Lay them off. They laid them off. They laid them off because they were showing up very high on the P&L. There was one thing that my friends forgot. They were also the highest revenue generators. The moment they laid off, the competition was Best Buy. They hired them all. Best Buy became the number one, and 2009, this shut down. So those are some of the benefits of talent management. How you are managing, I don't know. Leaders worldwide, there was a research study done in the United States or North America. They believe that one of the competitive advantages that will make a difference between a great company and its imitators is the people. Yes, technology can play a great role, but at the end of the day, it's not the laptops. It's not, yes, Facebook makes a huge difference and all that kind of stuff, marketing and everything, and of course the numbers. But at the end of the day, it's the people. So the question is, whose job is to develop the talent? Talent Development 101. It's everybody's job. There is the American way and there is this Japanese way. The American system, they have this mentor-mentee system or the on-the-job training system, but it's informal. In Japan, it's very formal. Dr. Zilaf has left, but I'm glad that she had our son as an assistant brand manager. That's what the Japanese do. Everybody who is down is a mentee, above a supervisor is a mentor. And it starts from the lowest ranking all the way to the top, and it's formalized. So it's not only the job of HR, but it's all of you sitting in this room and outside, and the people reporting to you. So really quick, there was a Harvard Business Review. There's an article, Developing Your Leadership Pipeline. Developing your leadership pipeline. What it says is that you need to have a mindset. You need to adopt a mindset of developing talent. That's why in Japan, it's mandatory for you to develop people who are reporting to you before you can be promoted. So you need to have a mindset. And you got to make time for in-depth talent development. And you got to differentiate between strong and the weak performers. Yes, there is this top 15%, and there's this middle. And when I was at LUMS, what we used to have, also for those of you who have gone to LUMS, is the LP crowd. There is this the bottom 10% or bottom 15%. You got to have those in the organization, and you got to make tough decisions, which one to keep and which one to say goodbye to. And then the ones that have got the challenge or they have the potential, you got to give them the challenging assignments. So really quick, it is your job to make sure that you invest in the people that are within your group or your organization. There is this sink and swim mentality. That will not pay off. You got to help people. You got to be mentors so they can come up. And then, according to this research, they said identify the linchpin positions. What could be a linchpin position? Anybody in the audience? What could be a linchpin position? Anybody? Key positions. Whether it's the general manager of operations or whatever, yes, CFO is a key position, or a line manager or customer service manager can be. So you need to identify those linchpin positions, and then you need to map them with the talent that you got. Then you got to make it transparent. Again, English Biscuit is a good example. Parco is a very good example. Their general manager, HR, Mr. Shahzad, is doing an excellent job making transparent the entire performance management process as well as the promotion criteria. So you need to make it transparent. And fourth item is you need to monitor the progress to avoid what's something called Roger Jones phenomena. Roger Jones phenomena, the term was coined at Sunoco. Sunoco, the CEO was about to retire. They asked each divisional head to identify one person who could be the CEO. Finance department came up with a name called Roger Jones. They went to marketing, they said Roger Jones. They went to HR, they said Roger Jones. Any department they went to, they said Roger Jones. That's impossible. How can they be, such a multinational and there is only one person in the entire organization, Roger Jones? So they revamped their entire performance appraisal system and the talent management system and make sure that each divisional head was forced to identify 3 top-notch people, men and women, in each of the divisions so that there is no such thing called Roger Jones. And then the criteria has to be flexible. So these are some of the things. Quickly, just wrapping up, how to identify. This is one of the models. There are lots of models that exist. How to identify your stars. Again, in the appraisals you have does not meet, meets expectations, and exceed expectations. Then you have the leadership behavior, the how part, and then you also have the performance. What has the employee done? And for those who are in the red, you can see these are the ones that you need to pay attention to. You need to work with them or you need to say goodbye. In the yellow, they are the ones who are top performers, but they might lack soft skills. That's why they call the leadership issues. And then the performers that you have, the key talent is Zahra, such as from ICAP. Yeah, no, she did not pay me to say that. So, and then we have got Binesh and Adnan and so on. So this is one of the models that you can use to identify the key talent that you can take further. And so these, again, we don't have the time, but there's another article that I recommend that you read, this one called Developing the Talent That You Have, Strategies for Training and Development. Last but not the least, be a mentor. I came into the academics from the industry. The most satisfying thing that I have found in my 23 years is teaching. And the second most satisfying thing is being a mentor. So I highly encourage you to become mentors, find mentees. I am blessed. I can tell you every time I travel out of the Pakistan, I have at least a couple of mentees in every country that I go to or I work. I've been to 20 different countries. So it's a great feeling to see your mentees grow. Thank you very much. I'll see you. Sorry about that.
Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Rizwan Amin Sheikh, for that wonderful, inspiring talk. And can we have Roger Jones's phone number in case we need a star in the organization? Right, so we're heading into the namaz and lunch break. Let me just remind you, please do hurry back because Dhananjaya is giving his very special presentation straight after lunch on how to communicate effectively and build your leadership brand. You will not want to miss that. And in case you want to learn more, you're welcome to register. Places are going fast, so please register now for his course, which is happening tomorrow. So let me just invite actually Abdul Rahim Surya first. He's a past president of ICAP. If he can present the memento to Dr. Rizwan Amin Sheikh for coming all this way and giving us such a good talk. Mr. Surya, if you could make your way to the stage. And Dr. Rizwan Amin Sheikh, if you could kindly make your way to the stage so to receive the memento. Let's have a warm round of applause for them. You can present the memento, please. And let me just give the instructions for lunch while that's happening. You're welcome to go this side on towards the ballroom and on that side in the Xavier Hall. I can assure you the menu is exactly the same in both halls. So please choose one and proceed there. And for namaz, there is a masjid outside. We'll see you back at 2:15. Thank you very much.